Oh my gosh, I forgot to do the cool state of the chain intro with the Specky thing. Wrong button. Anyway, welcome everybody to the big show. My name is Doc, joined as always with Paul, deep in the blockchain. We had to pull him out of the matrix for a minute. Well, how's the real life feel, Paul? Do you need to be jacked back
Uh,
in?
it's snowing here. I'm not sure I like that.
Me too. It's we got pummeled. We just got the kids back in school from the holiday break. And by the way, happy new year to all of you out there in Phantasma land. And just got them in school for like one day, and then I was like, yeah, you can go back to work. And then just got sacked with like 8 inches of snow, and I think it's
Holy
doing more
crap.
today, and they've canceled school like the entire week. So it's been cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun. Love the kids, love to have them home. Don't get me wrong. Welcome to the state of the chain, everybody. I hope you're out there and the stream is running. Somebody say what up in the comments for me, so I know you're that we got some ears or some eyes or whatever. Um, we have what's going on in the world of Phantasma, Paul?
We've been basically doing this last month. There's been a handful of new things we've been working on, but it's really just doing a lot of the daily grind. Um, Continuing to work on everything we're working on with Tomb and the stuck swaps and making improvements to Tomb, which has been a pretty significant challenge. And then looking at some stuck swaps with Neo, and then we're talking about getting pulling in the stuck swaps from Ethan BSC. So we're moving ahead with all of these things. We've been talking a little bit more about the documentation, especially. That's been kind of an issue. Kind of one of those things that we wanted to tackle a lot of the mechanics before we really dug into the documentation, because no reason to document things that we're going to change.
Correct.
So a lot of good stuff, a lot of good stuff, a lot of multiple weekly meetings and improvements and Mantis tickets, and it's been good. It's been a good month. Well,
Amazing.
it's almost 2 months now, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's been a couple months, and we do apologize for the delay. Of course, we hit the holiday season, but I think that there's been discussion where we love to be able to give you the updates on a monthly basis, but some things, of course, move faster than others. So probably going to shift this into every couple months, unless there's some just like really incredible, amazing stuff that happens that, and then we'll throw out something sooner. But this lets us show more. There's like the thing, and it was passed around the development meeting, that the last 10% is always the hardest, when you're trying to reach a goal. So we're at that,
Absolutely.
that stage on a lot of stuff. So it may be seemingly like it's moving a little slower. Those are always, that final push is always the hard one. So we prefer to they're saying to please speak a little louder, Paul, next time. That we prefer to be able to kind of show a little more progress here. So anyway, without wasting too much time, let's go ahead and get into it. Let me bust a screen share up here for you. Where'd
That
it just
was
go?
is my volume a little better now? I just
Yeah, I think
changed it.
so.
It's a
I
little
think
hard to
so.
tell. Hard to tell
Yeah,
from here.
you may just have to speak a little louder too, but it sounds good for me. Okay.
I get that often enough.
All right, let's just so clearly there's a whole lot of stuff. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the voting.
Okay, so yeah, go through the voting. One of the things that we're trying to do right now, we understand that the voting mechanism needs a rework. We're going to look at it. We were actually kind of looking at a forklift update to it at some point. This was our first push for it to kind of get some ideas, what we could do, what we couldn't do, what we should do, and get some feedback on it. So we've got it to the point where you can actually create polls, you can vote on them, you can cancel polls. So it's actually functional. So it's functional right now. And one of the other concerns that we had was it was the ability for users to vote and then move their funds to another account and vote again. So we implemented a feature that even if you vote, what will happen is once every 12 hours we'll run a script that actually looks at all of the people that voted, the voting power that they used, and make sure that it's still current voting power that they have. And if it's not, we remove it. Um, and if they take and they actually migrate to a new wallet, then we'll migrate their votes to that new wallet so that next time we run it, we don't delete them.
Right.
So there are a few improvements there. I think the biggest one was making sure that the vote can't be manipulated by just moving tokens here and there. And so
Right.
that was a big one.
That's good. That's excellent. Fair and fair democracy. That's what we're running around here.
Well, and
Uh,
we have some things coming up that we'll want everyone to vote on.
mhm.
Uh, directions, as we kind of start getting more towards finalizing what Phantasma is really going to look like when we get out there, we really push to get on board projects. We have some changes we want to make, and those will be put to a community vote.
Yes,
And we really
absolutely.
wanted to push to make sure that voting was good and
Yes.
was accurate, couldn't be manipulated.
Right, right. Voting has been a big topic of discussion. I know that there's a whole Telegram channel on proposals and things like that. And then again, we from the team are also really looking forward to being able to present some great new ideas for the direction of the chain in the future. So voting is definitely going to take a um, its rightful place in the operation of the chain going forward. Okay, moving on. Tomb updates. For those who don't know, Tomb is our compiler that developers must use to uh, create smart contracts and things like that on the chain.
Yeah, as we're moving forward, and we've discussed this a bit before, as we were trying to go from trying to bring Tomb up to date with all of the features that we need to be able to have all the functionality we need in our smart contracts. And since it's a developed language, or a language that we are building, um, everything that we want to have in it, we have to build ourselves. And so we've looked at it's kind of interesting looking at Solidity contracts, which I'm very familiar with, and looking at, well, how do I port this to Tomb? It's been kind of a big topic of discussion because we believe that the more we can make it easier for porting Solidity contracts to Tomb, the wider the base is for developers and even existing contracts we have. So it's actually something we really need to focus on. And so um, we've been finding gaps and holes here and there that need to be fixed, need to be plugged, and some changes. So it's a little here, and some of this is a little technical. The dealing with arrays and for adding and removing to arrays. Even Solidity has a lot of drawbacks on that one, but even the simple pushing array, popping from array, so adding and removing. And the other one we did was events upgrade. This was actually quite significant. The tech ran into a problem when he was working on Catacomb that he needed to put out multiple events during a transaction. So, in other words, if you um, uh, transfer tokens and you update a score, well, maybe we want to have two events there, all in a
Mm-hmm.
single transaction.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is before two things. One, it wouldn't let you to have multiple custom events, problematic. And two was that it wouldn't give you the actual event name. So on the back end, so you have a node app or something that's listening for this. And if you can't get the event name, it's really hard to say, okay, I need to update something off chain when this event happens.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I need to update the leaderboard, or I need to update my game even when this event fires.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been modified now so you can actually have multiple events fire in a single transaction, and you can actually have the event name. So now I can see what the actual event that was popped. So now I can deal with it off chain.
Right.
Significant update.
Yeah.
Um, and this once again goes to usability.
Excellent. Yeah.
We,
Super important for games to be able to kind of batch these events together. You don't want to have to
oh,
sign multiple transactions for you know
oh yeah,
I
for a
upgraded a
single
sword
activity.
and then it took X amount of tokens and then I donned this with my infused NFT on my armor or whatever. So just to put that in kind of perspective. So we want to be able to do lots of
Uh,
stuff at once.
yeah, and I mean I know that there's you run a transaction, you might have 10 different events that you want to fire based
Hmm.
upon a whole bunch of different things because you're looking for off-chain functionality that could
Yeah.
even go back on-chain. So it all kind of works together.
Yeah. And also imagine this is like we're talking about a singular instance, but imagine a game that was at scale or mid scale where it's not just one guy trying to do this or one player, but it's multiple players at different stages trying to do things and talk back and forth to the client to the chain. So we need to be able to minimize the load, right? And things like that. So that's very important stuff.
And then we've got the Tune plugin for Visual Studio Code, and this is more for syntax highlighting. There's still more work to do on it, but it is an initial plugin for it, so that as you're going through it, it highlights variable names and function names and constants, and it does a little bit color coding. And this is really important for when you're developing it. Just that visual indicator helps a lot. And I don't know, I haven't looked at it enough to see if we have code completion, but that will actually be on the list to do. So as you're typing, it will start giving recommendations for code completion for functions and things like that.
Oh yeah, drastically, significantly
Yeah.
reducing the time to get stuff
Oh,
done.
yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard
misspellings or errors or a lot of things. Yeah,
I've heard some developers say, without code completion, I would, it would take me down to about 50% of my speed.
right.
As opposed to trying to have to remember everything. Code
Hmm.
completion really
Hmm.
helps.
Hmm. Yeah.
Then we've got just a couple standard functions, calls to the runtime, some issues with getting Nexus and things, and those were actually used for. We were looking for changes for that for the wallet. There were a few things that we needed to run to get the Nexus. That just kind of allowed us to do some things in the wallet we needed to do.
Hmm.
And then allowances. Yeah, allowances is um, it's a standardized system on EVM chains and on a lot of other chains. Is that it's if I want a contract or I want somebody to be able to spend my tokens, for example, rather than me sending tokens to a contract, I can say I want to buy this thing and I know that it's going to cost 100 tokens. But rather than me sending tokens to the contract and the contract going, oh, I got 100 tokens, so I assume you mean to buy it. I can actually call the buy function, and the contract can just take those 100 tokens from me. But for it to be able to do that, I need to give it an allowance. I need to say, okay, you can spend 100 of my tokens. Then I call the buy function. It takes the tokens all square.
Yeah. Super
So
important
that
function.
a super important function. It's a safety function. Um, it's it's a safety function, and it's also um, it allows for more structured functionality. In other words, nobody can take my tokens unless I've specifically given them an allowance for it.
Hmm.
But it also means this is a standardized process that can be followed.
Yes,
And
and
it's
one that's commonly used on
right.
Solidity.
And it's not the other thing is this is not a on-chain function in the case of this isn't built into the chain itself. This is actually contract source code. So this would become a token standard, but it would be something that as a developer you could change if you wanted. Just like even on EVM change, I can change the way the allowance system works. For example, if I had a token that I put out, but I was also going to do a staking contract for that token, well, I could actually set it so the staking contract always has 100% allowance. So now I don't have to give allowance, but it's a trusted contract because it's a programmatic functionality of my contract and not an on-chain enforcement. I'm not a big believer in a lot of functionality being enforced on chain, such as a token standard and other things like that, because I believe that developers, the more you do this, the less you support innovation. And since it is blockchain, and since most people that are on blockchain are people who do not like to follow the norm, they like to be
You don't
rebels.
say.
Yeah, they like to be rebels. They like to come. And the beauty of blockchain is I can come up with something absolutely unique, different, and interesting than the way it's ever been done before, put it
Mhm.
out there, and then the community as a whole decides whether it's a good or a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, it's like
And
that's the EIP to ERC. That's the way that works on EVM.
exactly. So it's a standard, but I can change that standard
Mhm.
to fit whatever it needs I happen to have.
Hmm.
So, but allowances is good, and then of course the custom events.
Right. Awesome. And what's good also about that is innovation is when this is why all these great new 4337s and any of these other things that pop up is community innovation that gets agreed on by quorum, and then now you've got really nice examples that you can then build off of, right? So you have these libraries of these ERC or PHA standards or whatever that people have commonly accepted, and it will rapidly change the scope of how fast people can develop on chain once there's kind of come to this agreement. So beautiful. Are we
Yep.
good there? Can we move on?
Yeah. No, that's
Okay,
perfectly fine.
cool. All righty. All right.
Virtual machine, some tweaks there. Nothing to really dig into, I would say. The RPCs, we've continued to improve that, especially as we're moving forward, pushing more transactions. It's been kind of interesting. We have a block producer now. In other words, we have a script that produces blocks on a scheduled basis. The reason we're doing that is because we currently don't have enough volume to keep transactions running. And so when someone submits a transaction, it never actually processed until the next person submits one. And so a block is produced. So, so we created a script to do that. And so now we're looking at how that's acting when we're doing a lot of blocks, but we're continuing to solidify the RPCs.
Great.
And additional to querying RPCs for information, which actually goes to some of the changes we've been making with the Explorer and the API. So it kind of leads into the next one, which is the API improvements. We made some changes before. We're continuing to make changes, specifically for making the Explorer faster and be able to collate data better. But it will actually help us in the long run as more dApps come online and use our API that it can actually scale.
Right. 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 Definitely something
Um,
you don't want to get clogged up.
Absolutely. And then the specifically for the leaderboard, this was something that Tech was working on with Catacombs, getting the leaderboard running better so that it could update faster with less lag.
Hmm. Hmm. Excellent. Here we go. Oh, moving on. Inflation
Infl-
events.
Inflation events. Yes, this has kind of been an ongoing issue. Seems like we update it and then we do the inflation event and then we analyze how that went and what changes need to be made. And so every time we do it, we kind of seem to be honing in on exactly the way it should work. And so we did a few fixes for it, updating the trigger, and we actually had a discussion about that today. And so um, I think well, I think every time we put it out, we think we're in the right spot. And I would think there was some remainder that was left over last time that wasn't quite distributed the way that we wanted it to. After everybody got their tokens, there was this little leftover remainder. And so we had to do another tweak on that to get that distributed exactly the way that we expected it to. So I believe that's ready to go. So continue improvements,
Excellent.
analyze everything, and make sure we're doing what we promised we would be doing.
Excellent. Okay. Docker support improved.
Yes.
Great. I mean,
Yep. No,
it reads as
it
on
was
the tin. Yeah.
it was definitely improved. Just continuing to improve that
Yep.
one.
Great.
It's one of those unless you reinstall it on a regular basis, you may not notice a significant difference, and even if you do it, you still may not have much of a difference. Just just a little easier, less clunky.
Great. And then code cleanup and improvements.
Yeah, this is just an ongoing effort as we push more, do more. It's kind of interesting with Tech doing as much on Catacomb as he's been doing. He's actually finding, well, this seems to be troublesome and this is a rough spot. And this is basically just the more we work with the chain and actually start doing dApps.
Hmm.
And so this will just continue to be an um, ongoing process. And then the unstaking problem. And this just had to do with older accounts, but it was something that I don't recall who brought it up. I think it was a community mod brought it up. But it was not significant problem to resolve, but it was something that had to be done.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Infra.
Yeah, as part of the work when we were working with when Tech and Roy was working with the ledger, they had to improve the Python SDK for some of the testing, and so it they actually spent a pretty significant amount of time on working on the Python SDK. So it should actually be extremely good now. And so it was kind of one of those side projects that had to be undertaken as we worked on Ledger. And the Ledger integration is actually going quite well. We're at the last stages of getting all of the tests to run in completion. I believe Tech said there was one kind of tricky little issue that he was working on. But otherwise, what we've done is we actually um, updated to the latest code base for Ledger and have gotten rid of all the things that we don't need, any extra code. So it was a good code cleanup, and we've also worked through and got almost all of the tests completing, all except for one. So we are very close to full Ledger support, and once that
Nice.
happens, we'll submit it to Ledger. Actually, we have to submit it to an audit company. They have a couple different audit companies that they've recommended that we use. So we'll submit it to an audit company, and then once they give us the okay, then it actually gets submitted to Ledger for full approval. So very close,
Great.
very, very close.
Great. Sounds good. And then the management side.
Yeah, the Neo claim portal, um, very close. We're still having a little bit of an issue with confirming how we're going to get the Neo account address and confirm that it's legitimate. So there's still a couple of outstanding issues there on making sure it's secure.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we're making progress on that. I think
Yeah.
actually we have um, something that's runnable at the moment. I'm not sure exactly how if we have some still outstanding issues with that.
Mhm. And the
Um,
Neo,
our,
real quickly to cut you off, the
yeah,
Neo claim is problematic of all the different claims because there are something like 7,000 wallets that are blacklisted um, from the time that shall not be named from the time we had the exploit. So one picking through that, of course, Neo's also upgraded since that time. So we do appreciate everyone's patience. We know there are some of you out there that have really been asking a lot, and we're very close.
yeah, it's kind of we were actually talking about this today that it's like, well, how's this duck swaps? And it's like, well, what specifically? Because there are so many facets to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's you solve one and you just have to go to the next and the next and the
Mm-hmm.
next. And so we knew this one was going to be more problematic. So this is one of the last parts of the Neo claim. Of the stuck swaps claims is the
Yeah,
Neo. It's not the last, but it's on the way there.
yeah. Farming values.
Same. It's. I think we did a snapshot on that, and I'm not sure if the calculation has been done to resolve exactly everybody's calculation as far as the what we can do to make everybody whole with the farming.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still ongoing, amongst the other things we've been discussing.
Right. Improvements to the Phantasma Hub and related to voting, which we kind of
Yeah.
uh, touched on a little bit earlier. And then also, as you mentioned before, during Tech's development of Catacomb, plenty of things were uncovered that have actually helped us out quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's Catacombs coming along. Not quite there yet. I think we're updating. You needed to update testnet. I think that might happen today. If not, that'll happen Monday to be able to get all the latest event updates. And from there, he actually can have a version because he has it running locally and Catacombs running locally. So once testnet is actually updated, then he can have Catacomb released in beta on testnet. Whether he'll actually let that out in the public, I don't know. But it will actually be live and runnable on testnet, which will be pretty awesome. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be great. Okie dokie. And I guess for the last little bit there.
Yeah, all the Sol KCal 8th BNB stock swaps, and this is from Phantasma to others. These are withdraws, I believe, and so we've taken care of those. We still have one of the problems we have is, or one of the things we haven't been able to just get a list of is those that were taking going from that were stuck from ETH and BSC onto Phantasma. Some of those we have, some of those we don't. So we have a form out for that to request information. You can hit us up with the information you need that you have, and then we'll investigate from there.
Yep. And then we have added a new developer.
Yeah, the new developer was Roy. He's another young guy that he's very good at C#. He's very good at understanding the technicalities of the deep recesses of C#, which is awesome. And he and Tech have worked together in university, so they have a very good working relationship. And he's actually was working with Tech on the ledger, and that's it's been good to have that the work between the two of them. And I believe that he's moving on to the new Phantasma wallet, which is going to be pretty exciting.
Yes.
The new version of Poltergeist.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot cleaner, a lot nicer.
Oh, it is. Well, and the other issue is once the code, the problem with the Poltergeist is that the code base has been touched by so many different devs, and it kind of has different programming paradigms throughout the whole thing, and so it's a little bit of it's not that it doesn't work. It's just you have to be careful when you touch it to add new features or to fix bugs, because you've got different naming conventions and different, not proper classes and some other things. So with the new one, we'll be able to structure it well using standard Microsoft naming conventions and coding practices, so that any dev that comes along will understand it and continue with the structure as it is. So it's a lot safer to work on.
Yes, definitely. Okay, let's see. Oop. I got to zoom out first. Okay, moving on to the next upcoming development roadmap update. We can kind of, look, we just talked about this. So again, it's that last 10% on some things. So farming liquidity tracker. How's the Uniswap DEX quest going, or the AMM logic cloning going?
It's sitting at 50%, but I'm going to tell you, I actually haven't touched the code itself, like the Uniswap code. I'm working with porting Solidity in general to the to Tomb, which significantly affects the DEX. The last 10% of porting the DEX over will be the actual code specific, especially the low level assembly calls within the code, and either porting those to Tomb or rewriting them in so that they're not using assembly based upon how they the opcodes.
Right.
So it's I haven't worked on it specifically yet, but as we move towards from Solidity to Tomb, yeah, it's moving along, and so should be quick as soon as we kind of get the all of the Tomb features that we need.
Now there have been recently some comments in the Telegram concerning our previously announced DEX things. I just want to again clear this up. The DEX that had been previously written by the Phantasma team was done so in such a way that it was deeply tied into the core chain, the core chain code. This is not the greatest idea because that opens up a lot of attack vectors potentially. And we don't want people poking around in anything that could affect the core chain code or present an issue where there would be an exploit that would significantly affect the operation of the blockchain. So we removed that code from the repository, and it's for reasons of safety. So this quest, again, to just reiterate what we're trying to do with making some parallels between Solidity and Tomb, not only for a DEX, but it would allow people to be able to clone or get close to any kind of contract and be able to get it up and running faster, which we want. So just to go over that again, those are the reasons that our previously roadmapped Phantasma RAN DEX is no longer on the table. It's for the safety and security of the chain, and this time that's more important.
Well, I would like to say there's one other reason that I specifically chose. Obviously safety and security is paramount, but the other reason is technical debt and technical and code responsibility.
Yes.
We don't have the dozen developers on staff to be able to not only write it, but to keep it running, keep it secure, update it, handle bugs, all of those things. It is a massive amount of technical debt that we should not take on. And this was a vote internally amongst all of the biz dev and the developers, was that once we realized that this is one of the things that's been holding us back, is working on things that should not be our responsibility, just because we need to write an extremely fast, efficient, secure chain, was both the DEX and the bridge. To take those out of our hands, because those should be external to the chain code itself. As with anything, the more complex you make a machine, the more chances there are for it to break. The more components. Fewer things to fix on a a motorcycle than there is on a car, in the sense of a lot more components, a lot more things that can go wrong. And so we're looking to create something with less moving parts that is easier to maintain, but also easier to secure.
Right. Exactly. Excuse me. Okay. Moving on, multi-sig, still early progress. Phantasma Hub, we spoke about that earlier. The Neo tracking the tokens, Catacomb, again, that last 10%. Solidity Tomb, kind of touched on that. Swap contract between K-Cole and stuff. So a lot of ongoing stuff. I think our voting is I think probably the most requested feature from the community that we get finished, and that's again that's in the final stretch. Chain API Ledger, we spoke about all that. So again, the next remains largely the same. The example contracts for people to be able to come on and look at documentation and at least see a base level of what can be done and how to employ that. Multi-sigs, more stuff for lock content, timed NFTs, all the great use cases, which we're actively investigating now. Wallets, Tomb, yeah. So and more BPs. We want to get to that point. I think look, the biggest thing here is once we remove the last lingering traces of the token swapperoonies, it's going to free up a lot of time. That's the hope, and we're nearing that state, so that we're going to be able to, again, we're bringing on more developers. We're talking with some developers who have developed certain aspects for the chain in the past, so that we can kind of have them hyper focus on certain areas that they have pre-existing expertise in, right? And and task them with getting this stuff going. So that's good. So so our from the development side, from the core chain developers, we've increased our um, development power, right, by a significant percentage, I would say, in the last month or so. So some of this stuff should hopefully come a little faster. Then, of course, the SDKs, working on the SDKs, that's something that's kind of still far off, but we want to make sure we have the best SDKs for our, I guess, our core languages, right? First, I mean, anything in any of our work with Python is also is great, and the C# and stuff like that. So that's the main bread and butter here. I think that I will stop sharing this part now, and let me bring up a few notes here. Just a few highlights from the business development side. So, the R Games has joined the Phantasma ecosystem, producing a racing game. We are expecting to be able to announce kind of a combat game by the end of the month, hopefully. We're onboarding a few other game developers. Is the main thing. I don't want to. I don't like to kind of speak before the ink is dry, but we're in the we're in the we feel pretty confident. We've got a few more titles coming on. We are now listed on 4 DEX aggregators that can be accessed directly through the website. We have widgets for most of them that provide one. So, still for those in the US, this is the solution for the time being. The stuck swaps from ETH to BSC have now been resolved. Check your wallets. Working on Neo, talked about that. Check the announcement we made just a couple of days ago on our socials in regard to Neo. We have a new contributor to the marketing team who's got a lot of experience doing not only external marketing, but also with community growth and things like that. We'll be announcing them in the coming days. We've already, you might already see the Zeely campaign that we're starting up. We'll probably be doing some more stuff in Discord. I will say, to that note, to prepare for the inevitable, ye who are afraid of Discord, because we will probably most likely be migrating the main communication channels for the community into Discord for a variety of reasons. We're blockchain. There's better avenues for incentivization, activities, just fun stuff, cool bots, things like that. It will keep the soldiers trading channel and all that stuff on Telegram for legal reasons, which you're able to use. But Discord's just a cleaner look. I don't see any sense for us to stick around on Telegram. We're able to organize our conversations better. We can have sections for voting proposals, sections for each for ecosystem partners, for developers, and it'll just be a lot easier to keep track of all these separate types of topics and important topics. If you've got a developer coming into the TG that's curious, and they might talk to someone else, but then that gets lost down a chain of other conversations, it's just much easier to go back and pick up where you left off and have these sort of conversations. So prepare for that. It's definitely coming soon. That's all. And I will say that as we knock out a lot of these long lasting big ticket items, especially with people's funds and tokens and liquidity, and we move closer to this state of having example contracts, onboarding stuff, it's been easier to reach out. So we've been in a lot of talks with people that we hope to, it's looking favorable, be able to bring on as advisors to the blockchain, people who have a lot of experience, both, these are speaking about different people, but within Web3 gaming, network experience with blockchain at very high levels of even like government people who have relationships within their home governments, business, things like that. So we've really been working hard on the back end to kind of pad the team, and so that when we're really ready to launch with some of these like great ideas and things that we're planning, that we've got a rock solid team of people there to support us and really be able to push out the Phantasma name. People who have deeper ties with some of the larger games in Web3 that we would hope to be able to integrate and things like that. So it's very encouraging. It's very exciting. A lot of the stuff that we're working on in the background. It's a little too early to talk about it, but there's a lot of great stuff going on the business development side. I just want everybody to know that. It's like I actually haven't been this excited for a while. So take that as you will. Paul.
Yes.
What else we got? Anything amazing?
Well, the amazing is the Bitcoin ETFs were approved.
Yeah.
So there's been the number of calls that is being scheduled here all of a sudden. People coming out of the woodworks, all of a sudden they're excited to start building. So I'm really excited that we're at the place we are with Phantasma, as far as we are getting so close to just, hitting the ground running, preparing for this bull market. It's not here yet. I mean, some people think the bull's here, but it's not. We still have I'm guessing we can have a pretty good drop here before the bull gets started.
Yeah.
20-30%, and then the bull gets started. So, but I think we're in a really good position to be able to hit the ground running with Phantasma. So I'm excited. I'm really excited. And as far as the new developers, like Doc said, we've talked to a previous developers who worked on Phantasma previously. Very smart guy, very capable, that wants to come back and start doing some more work with Phantasma, and then also talk to a group that is interested in volunteering and doing some work with Phantasma.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
A pretty good, it's, I don't know how many, could be 10, 15, 20 people working as a group on a project for Phantasma. So we're pretty excited about that one too.
Yeah.
We'll actually have that call later today. Can't tell you today, but that'll be later today. And once we get them on board and everything moving, then we can announce it specifically. But that's a really good sign that I think people are seeing that we're starting to get some momentum and we're starting to move in the right direction and make some changes. So we're kind of getting some eyeballs on, and that's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah. And with every one of these like high level items that we check off the box, increases our confidence to be able to start getting on more high level conversations like the one Paul is referring to, as we feel like the chain's really starting to get in this great place where we can bring people on to do stuff. So for everything that we get done, we get to take a step in the other direction, and we do this little dance. Let's just take a quick moment to address a couple of questions in the audience. We'll probably be wrapping this up shortly. For those asking about KCal inflationary stuff, please go to the Telegram. If you're not already in the Telegram group that's dedicated towards proposals, you will want to, I don't have the link on me, but please hit the main TG chat, ask someone for the link. There's a dedicated Telegram group for coming up with voting proposals. There's been a lot of discussion about KCal in there, so I would say that's your best bet there. Hit those likes. We love that. When will KCal be tradable? Again, that's just something that we're going to have to approach when we feel the time is right. Right now, as we've stated many, many times, it's not like we're trying to keep it hijacked, but the cost associated with putting KCal on an exchange, providing initial liquidity for it, etc., it's not cost effective for us right now to do that because there's just not use for KCal. We're definitely not trying to hold your KCal hostage. We're just waiting for the right moment to be able to do that again. When BP added more, again, the more that we progress, and are able to enact the voting, and we feel that things are in a really solid place, um, we will have a plan for BPs going forward. And again, as Paul said, anyone can launch a DEX. We're going to provide some Uniswap cloned contracts. You can come in and do it. We would love that. And anyone who is out there listening, who's interested in running a DEX or partnering with us on DEX integration or bridge integration, by all means, please reach out to the business development team.
Oh, we'd also be interested in anybody who wants to start digging into some Solidity too. Take some standard Solidity contracts and say, hey, this is what it would look like in Tomb.
Yeah.
And and provide them as examples and deploy them. It's the same thing we're doing. So we're not doing anything that the community can't do when it comes to this kind of thing. And I would love, we're open for volunteers, open for people who can do that. Our bandwidth is limited, and the quicker we can start having those things available, the quicker we can start getting adoption.
Yeah.
And start getting projects on the chain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and in the future, we hope to be able to roll out any kind of initiative to help incentivize people to come in and take a deeper look at this chain. So, and from our good friend Miguel, we wish you a great year as well. I think 2024 is going to be a banger. Gosh, you all, I'm actually super, super excited. I can't tell you why. I can't wait to tell you why in the near future. Things are cool. Things are real cool. So, yeah, I guess that's it, man. Thank you everybody for joining. Paul, we'll see you in the funny papers. Would you anything you'd like to sign off with?
I would say everybody needs to strap in and prepare for what's coming for Phantasma.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Just strap in, pack your bags, kiss your loved ones, and prepare for where Phantasma's going.
I think that's very fair.
Yeah.
We're going to kick ass this year, everybody.
It's going to be a great year.
It's going to be bananas.
The last 2 to 3 weeks have had the most exciting developments in Phantasma in probably years. I at least since I've been here for 7 or 8 months, I would say these are the most exciting few weeks that we've had.
Me too.
That I've had, and the team seems to be re-energized, refocused, reinvigorated, with the vision of what's coming.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's a very, very good time. Good time to be involved.
Yeah, and I'll say this. When I don't know when I think I joined in November of 22. Sounds about right. So even though I had plans, we kind of been in talks, but by the time that I wound up joining the team, we were post exploit, and it has been at times, wow, just really difficult, because I want to let everybody know that I have never worked with a more dedicated, committed, just the team at Phantasma, and you may not see them all out in the community or whatever. Just fantastic. Paul just teaming. Also, look, this chain could have folded after the exploit. It was massively a lot of stuff, but since I joined, everyone's been committed to doing everything that they could. But still, at the back of your mind, it's always been, we're trying to push a rock uphill. And sometimes it can be a weighty challenge. And I will say this, like Paul said, the past few weeks have, since I've been here, been the first time that I've really, 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 really been like, F yeah, let's do this. So it's like, It's cool, man. All right. So without saying, I don't want to hype you up too much, but I just think that it's really great. It feels like the first time that we've been really able to start finally focusing instead of like what's behind us, focus on what's ahead of us. And that's really the message that I want to. It's not like not necessarily about secret plans or whatever. It's just now we feel like, hey, we can look ahead. And that's a really refreshing thing to be able to say. So as far as that goes, good stuff ahead. Okay, everybody. Coming up on the hour here. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Look forward to the next State of the Chain, and hopefully we'll have more kick-ass stuff to reveal to you. Until then, this is Doc signing off. Don't forget to spay and neuter your pets.
I appreciate it. Have a good one, Doc. Thanks.
All right. See you later. It's one of those days, man. All right. Good night, everybody.